Welcome back to the weekend wrap. No production, just my thoughts. As always, please like and subscribe, share with a friend, a colleague, a relative, an associate, an enemy, any and all in between. It's appreciated. Any new subscribers joining the channel, thank you very much for subscribing. Hope you do enjoy the content. Just to give you a quick summary, this is basically my time to just sort of run through any action that took place over the weekend, any quick topics that are worth addressing, and just my overall thoughts of basically what's gone on. So enjoy. Now, I still haven't been able to see the Stephen Butler and Steve Rolls fight yet, which took place Thursday night, ESPN, based in Canada. I will check it. I still don't actually know the result, which is good. So when I finish this video, I can get some time, pop on the VPN and check that one out. But let's talk about Friday, because obviously that's where all of the intrigue and all of the interest lay. Now, obviously there was a little prelims before the bell type stuff. Andre Nowitzki against Juan Torres was interesting. 28-year-old Ukrainian heavyweight, 6'6", looked pretty handy. He looked like he had heavy hands as well, not like huge power, but sort of that thudding power. He didn't really load up on anything, so good orthodox heavyweight. Might be something interesting to look out for in the future. I guess one of the most intriguing of that was Jack McGann against Louis Green. Now, I can't remember if I gave an actual prediction for this one. I probably did, and I think I probably said Jack McGann by way of decision late, because he was sort of known as more of the, I guess, the puncher of the two, if you want to call it that. And obviously I remember him fighting a few months back and looked fairly impressive. But yeah, he's transitioning from MMA, mixed martial arts, and he got a rude awakening to the school of boxing in devastating fashion with a first round knockout loss to Louis Green, who I probably didn't give as much credit to as I should have. Louis Green has always been a tough competitor. I remember him in the last fight he had. I think he lost a split decision. Yeah, but overall, like, he's just a tough guy, just no nonsense, comes for action. He's from Kent, but you can hear in his voice there's pain there. He's a proper, like, if you want to call it a man's man, just a hard nut basically. And yeah, he didn't show any mercy to Jack McGann whatsoever. So congrats to him. Moving on to the main card. Justice Huni versus Kevin Lerena. Obviously, most people know Kevin Lerena lost his mum about 2 days, I think, before the fight was set to take place, and he still went ahead with the fight. I'm sure he probably wasn't in the best of mind frames, sort of mentally, emotionally, definitely would have been all over the place. But I did say on Basis Picks on the live stream that this was either going to spur him on, or this is gonna sort of just devastate him, and he was definitely fighting for the memory of his mum in that ring. In the first round, it was sort of a very even round between the two of them. Second round, I actually think Kevin Lerena got the best of Justice Huni for the first half of it. Anyway, he did hurt him. Looked like he buzzed him with a short, I think it was a short left hook on the inside, which almost woke Justice Huni up, and he actually did end up finishing that round fairly strong. And then third round, fourth round, fifth, sixth, he sort of really came on strong in those rounds. The fifth round, I think you could say that Lerena had actually did enough to win that one. Huni, I think, definitely got the sixth, and then the seventh, the eighth, and the ninth was all kind of Huni. Then he busted up Kevin Lerena's nose, and you think, okay, he could potentially get a stoppage if he just pushes the pace a bit more, using good footwork, good lateral movement, good pivots, good spins. But I guess the attacks just weren't as sustained, and he just wasn't necessarily breaking Kevin Lerena down like he used to back in the day. But then had to come through a massive crisis in the 10th round. He threw a right hand, I think, he threw a right hand sort of down the pipe, missed, but he threw it from way too far out, missed that, and as the handle sort of dropped down, got caught with a counter left hook by Lorena to the jaw, so almost to the jaw sort of neck area, and his legs were pretty much gone from that moment for about a good 45 seconds. He managed to stay on his feet. He managed to ride out the initial storm, and in theory you could have actually given that round as a 10-8. Some people obviously don't count 10-8s unless you properly drop somebody, but he was, really, really out on his feet up to sort of like maybe 50 seconds left of the round. Managed to sort of steady himself a bit, come back a little bit, but by that time it was too low, too far gone. But he did obviously manage to see out the round. I think he got 2 scorecards of 96-94 and then 1 scorecard of 98-92, or it was 2 scorecards of 98-92 and 1 scorecard of 96-94 in his favor. He definitely did win the fight, but that sort of crisis moment showed that maybe there is some work still to be done. Very talented young heavyweight prospect, but I guess still is a prospect. As much as he does have a great amateur background, they might want to think about maybe not bringing the level of competition down, but keeping him at this level for 1 or 2 more fights, just to sort of iron out any deficiencies that he's got in his game. But yeah, he obviously showed he's got good conditioning and the chin held up, but it was a good test, and I guess if this pushes him on to bigger and better things moving forward, then great. But otherwise, I definitely wouldn't be forcing to go for like any top 10 opponents at this point. Stay maybe in the top 20, top 30, keep building for 1 or 2. After that fight, you had Mark Chamberlain and Gavin Gwynne. Now, this fight, I predicted that Chamberlain was going to win, but I did think he would win it on points because Gavin Gwynne's just a very sort of tough individual. He can sort of tuck up well, he'll take punishment, but he'll kind of sort of come forward and just wear out opponents. What I didn't actually respect, I guess, is how much power Mark Chamberlain has sort of brought in and generated it over sort of the last 2 years or so. He's really sort of worked on his shots, worked on his placement and his delivery, and the punches were having a very big effect with Gwynne from the first moment of the first round. So whereas Gwynne should have tried to use his height and his reach and keeping some of his distance, just barreling forward, staying on the mid-range to inside was just a delight for Mark Chamberlain at this point, to the point where he moused Gwynne's eye in the first round, and it was being checked from the start of the second by, I think it was Howard Foster in the ring. And then rounds 2, 3, he's just targeting the eye. He's buzzing Gavin Gwynne. Gwynne's just not really able to do much, and then ultimately in the 4th round he sort of takes a beating, starting to take a beating on the ropes. The corner throws in the towel, and fight's over. But Mark Chamberlain definitely showed out, and he showed why His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh seems to hold him in such high regard. Apparently he's one of his favourite boxers to watch at the minute. Don't know where he saw him or what fights he saw that made him think that, but he got his opportunity, got his paydays. Definitely can't say much more than that, so congratulations to him. After that fight, we had Israel Madrimov against what's his name, Kurbanov. What's his first name? Magomed Kurbanov. Again, I thought Madrimov would win this on points. I thought Kurbanov would sort of stay compact and tidy and sort of work intermittently, but you would see Madrimov do just like the good work. Like he would have a moment in every round to sort of make you remember him in those rounds, and that's basically how it was playing out. Kurbanov definitely was the more tidy, the more well executed in sort of holding his shape and his discipline. But you had Madrimov, who was basically, he was moving. It was moving a bit excessively to start off with, but he actually then sort of found a groove, and he was giving me sort of shades of Dimitri Bivol with the way, like if you looked at his stance, his foot placement, the way he was sort of moving in and out. I was seeing a lot of sort of similarities to Bivol, and to some of the shots he was throwing and the technique he was using, there was definitely some elements of maybe like Canelo Alvarez in there. I know a lot of people think he looks a bit like Gennady Golovkin, but that's probably where the symmetry ends between them. Like his movement, if you look at the movement, it's definitely a lot more Dmitry Bivol than Triple G. But that being said, he managed to feint. He managed to feint Kurbanov in the 5th round. He came over the top with an overhand right after started to invest in the body to make Kurbanov drop his arms, and it caught him, it hurt him a little bit. He was on the rope, sort of tucked up behind the high guard, but he wasn't firing back. His legs dipped on the ropes, eventually got back up, sort of came back up to a full stance, but by that time referee jumped in, called the halt to the fight, and Madrimov now is your WBA world champion at 154, and as I stated to people before, he is now the recognized only champion. So he's not the holder of the regular title, he's the world champ. He's just not a super champ because he's not unified. That's sort of obviously how the WBA situation works, but he is the recognized champion in the division, so he's not a secondary holder or an interim. If anything, if Jermell Charlo was to come back, he would have to fight Madrimov for the belt, as he's now champion in recess. So just for anyone who doesn't sort of know how that that body works. Next up, we had Ray Vargas versus Nick Ball. Now, this is definitely a tale of two halves. Nick Ball, a lot of people feel that he, did enough to win the fight, or he should have won the fight. It ended up being a split decision draw. Funny enough, shout out to Alexander the Great, one of the great defeaters who I met at the watch along on the day. We was actually talking through the fight a bunch with a couple of other defeaters who was in the building, and I pretty much said, look, I've got Ray Vargas winning the first 6 rounds, but I said instantly, this is going to be a fight where Vargas is going to be winning those early rounds, and Nick Ball's going to have to basically sort of get on the inside, rough him up, like get dirty, drain his gas tank, and then try to take him late or drop him a couple of times in the second half of the fight. And that's pretty much how the fight was playing out. After a while, when Nick Ball was getting really frustrated, he would then sort of start to throw Vargas about a bit. Now, Vargas was being very smart by any time Ball was getting aggressive, he dropped to the ground to make the referee say, okay, I can see kind of what's happening. So every time they end up getting into clinches or getting close to each other, the ref would start to break them, thinking, okay, Nick Ball's being too dirty. But from round 7 onwards, Nick Ball basically started taking over the fight. So round 7, it was his first round. I actually gave him to win. Round 8, he managed to drop Vargas, although he did it was a bit of a dirty move. He grabbed him, sort of flung him, threw him, and then as Vargas was obviously off balance, he catches him with a left hook, which as he's being off balance, knocks him to the ground, and it was counted. And I said, okay, this is where he's going to start to take over. And in the 9th round, Nick Ball inexplicably stepped off the gas and allowed Vargas into the fight. Vargas actually came back very, very strong in the 9th, and to me, won that 9th round. In the 10th round, Nick Ball got back into control. He didn't employ any body work though. He was always just headhunting for the entire fight, but he still dominated and managed to dominate the 10th round. 11th round, he knocks down Ray Vargas again. And then in the 12th round, Ray Vargas is basically just, he's circling, he's running, he's trying to protect himself. Nick Ball's on the ascendancy. He's still managing to push the pace. He's not having as much success, but he does clearly win the 12th round. And I remember I was speaking with Alex. I said, well, look, he may have just about, Nick Ball, if he got any consideration in the first 6, because I think some people feel like it was 5-1 in the first half, I goes, if he's got any consideration, he's just about nicked this fight with the 2 knockdowns. But I had it, that 9th round was the pivotal round there. Giving up that 9th round to me was what ultimately cost him the fight, because I did score it 113, 7 rounds to 5 to Vargas with the 2 knockdowns. So when that split decision draw came out, I didn't have any yeah, I didn't have any complaints. A lot of people were shocked by that. I wasn't. I did think that Nick Ball would just about nick it 114, 112, 114 on the cards. I did think that would happen because obviously him being the home fighter, I thought he might get a bit of consideration in one or at least one of the early rounds in the fight. But ultimately, I've got no complaints with the draw. You know, he inexplicably he didn't work to the body. I feel like he had to work to the body, and had he have done that, he would have been able to stop the momentum and the movement of Vargas a lot quicker, and he probably might have even been able to get a late stoppage, or would have been able to dominate more towards the back end of the fight. But it is what it is. The draw happened. He was supposed to obviously get this belt to then try and do a unification with Raymond Ford, but Ford apparently has still said, look, I'm still willing to fight you on the 5v5 in June. So if that does take place, I can see maybe Nick Ball getting consideration there. Although maybe maybe Queensberry won't choose him for that one because they want him to get this WBC belt, and if he loses that one, he's going to be out of contention for the WBC. Maybe they might choose another 126. Maybe Matchroom might choose another 126, since there's no unification to be had in that particular bout. I'm not sure. Anything can change at this point. But yeah, commiserations to Nick Ball, but Vargas obviously showed his experience, and he did just enough to keep his belt. Moving on to Zhang and Joseph Parker. Now, I predicted that Zhang would win this fight via decision. I thought that he would basically do enough early in the fight to whereby he would have racked up enough rounds while Parker was trying to stay composed and maybe trying to stay on the outside, and obviously he tried to take the fight down the stretch and either tried to stop Zhang late or just to nick it on points that way. But I thought that that Zhang would win enough of those earlier rounds and basically just be able to manage the last part of the fight and hold out. Well, he kind of did better than I expected initially. He dropped Joseph Parker in the third round. I had Zhang's kind of winning the first round. The second round was like a swing. It could have been a 10-10, but it was a Parker-ish type round to me. But Zhang 10-8 in the third round, drops Parker quite heavily. Parker manages to survive that round. Fourth round was a Zhang round as well. Fifth round was a Zhang round. And what was that, 1, 3, 4, 5? Yeah, then Parker kind of got the sixth for me, just about. The seventh was nip and tuck. Parker was sort of firing more, but not a lot of stuff was landing. Like anytime that Zhang was actually hitting Parker, you could see the visible difference in their reactions. Like he was like knocking Parker back, or Parker was wincing. That you could tell. But the activity was definitely on Joseph Parker's side. So seventh round was kind of either or. Eighth round was obviously another knockdown by Zhang in the eighth, but after the knockdown he didn't step on the gas. He kind of just meandered and laboured to the end of that round, got that round out the way. But round sort of 9, rounds 10, round 11, Joseph Parker started just basically taking over activity and landing the cleaner shots. And then in the 12th round, when Sean George is like he's saying, look, you've got to knock him out. I don't trust these judges. Like, you have to go out there and knock him out. He's like, okay, cool, I got it. He throws 4 punches the entire round and doesn't land with any of them, and none of them are even like power punches. They're all kind of probing jabs. So I don't know how the gas tank held up. I don't know what the situation was, but I said on the live, him coming in at 291 pounds means that he's either coming to try and destroy Parker early, or he's had an injury in training that we don't know about, and he ain't been able to kind of shift the weight. But he obviously was massively unconditioned for this fight. It's always been talked about his gas tank to start off with. Now coming in at the extra weight is not gonna be of benefit. So for the rematch, which I'm sure he is gonna take, he's gonna need to sort that out. I would suggest trying to, a lot of the weight there, you could tell it wasn't like it wasn't like strength muscle weight, it was fat weight, to be fair. Like you can afford to drop maybe 15 pounds for the rematch. At that, when you're that height and that size, dropping a stone is actually quite easy. I used to be able to drop a stone from what I am now, like fairly simple with just with regular exercise. So there's no reason for him to come back in at 291. I would expect him to be around the high 270s, 276, 277, 278. That's where he kind of needs to be for the rematch. And I would still pick him to win the rematch based on making certain adjustments, although Joseph Parker's got the momentum on his side, and that's the key. That being said, I did say if Parker wins, I would also be very happy. Fellow Capricorn, birthday's a few days before mine, so I've always liked and supported Joseph Parker as a fighter. He's always been one of my favorite fighters, despite his friendship with Tyson Fury and that whole weird dynamic. He's always been one of mine. I'm very respectful to, like I said, people, Polynesian, Maori, Samoan descendancies. I just like a lot of that heritage and like what they stand for as families and codes of honor. So I'm happy that Joseph Parker got the decision, and ultimately Zhang, it's his fault. Yes, you could say he banked enough of the early rounds to get a decision. I actually had it a draw. I had it 7 rounds. I gave him 7 of the 5 rounds. So I gave Parker 7 of the 5 rounds. Of the 12 rounds, I gave Zhang 5. But with the 2 knockdowns, I had it scored 113. There were a couple other rounds in there where maybe you could have swung it Zhang's way, but ultimately he just didn't do enough when it mattered the most. In those championship rounds, when you need to pull out something, or at least be prepared to go out on your shield, to secure the victory and to keep the belt that keeps you in line for a title shot, he didn't do it. So I've got no issues with him losing. I know that Chris Andre, shout out to Chris, I know he had it 115, 111 to Zhang. He gave him 7 of the first 8 rounds, not including the second, and then he gave Parker the last 4. So I can see it. There are rounds there where I can kind of see it go either way, but yeah, I think Parker, the activity, and he was, even though a lot of stuff Zhang was blocking and it wasn't the cleanest of work, you can't, at the end of the day, he's still landing and Zhang's not throwing or not doing enough. So yeah, that's sort of where I kind of gave Parker a few extra rounds. But back to the drawing board. Both of them, I think, will come in better prepared for the follow-up, for the rematch, but it will be an interesting fight, and I'm definitely keen to have a look and to watch it. But we are now obviously at the place we need to be, the main event. Anthony Joshua versus Francis Ngannou. Anthony Joshua destroys Francis Ngannou in 2 rounds and shows Francis exactly what it means to be an elite level competitor in a sport that has only one craft to it. Look, the MMA is jack of all trades, so they always say a jack of all trades, a master of none. But some people think it's better to have a varied skill set than to just be a master of one. But if you go into the discipline of the person who is a master of one skill set, unfortunately you come out on the losing end, and that's just how it is. Now, yes, you can say that in the heavyweight division, the golfing class is reduced compared to some of the others, because a lot of the other weights is more about technique, angles, technical abilities, movement, speed, whereas heavyweight is a lot more about if you've got good punch power, good conditioning, you normally are like halfway there. But there's still levels to the entry point of the heavyweight division. Anthony Joshua showed that in the first round. The thing is, in the first round, he was actually getting caught with some wide shots by Francis Ngannou. And there was a couple of times where Francis even sort of loaded shots, maybe caught Joshua towards the chest, and Joshua sort of decided to jump in, hold, clinch, to sort of just stop that momentum. But Francis Ngannou he looked like he sort of came out very, very confident. And then from that confidence, where Joshua was starting to find a bit of range and he was, driving shots to the body, and then all of a sudden Francis Ngannou decided to go southpaw. inexplicably, because he was having more success from the orthodox stance at that point, and he chooses to go southpaw right in the middle of the fight. And at that point, as soon as he's gone southpaw, 4 seconds later, 4 or 5 seconds, he gets hit with the southpaw killer, the straight right down the pipe, bang, into the nose, mouth, chin area, straight on the canvas. And he looks up like, what the hell has just happened here? How did that happen? That's not supposed to happen. Well, it happened because you did novice-y things in there against a skilled pro, and unfortunately you paid the price. Managed to see out the end of that round, but from in the corner, the second round onwards, you could see all of a sudden now, like, he was starting to try and push the pace, but he was breathing with his mouth open from there. So it's like the gas tank, the energy, everything just kind of flew out. And that moment, coming in, what was it, about a minute and a half goes of round 2, he leaps in with the jab, tries to leap in with the jab hand, sort of. Anthony Joshua's there. He does a pull, but he barely even pulls back. Comes straight over the top with the right to the chin. Ngannou wobbles, falls back again. Eyes look. He's like, what? This isn't right. Like, why am I on the floor? This isn't what I'm used to. But he manages to get up again. Truthfully, at that point in time, like, Dewey Cooper, whoever probably should have threw in the towel. There's no need to really see anymore. Like, you can clearly see that this is only going one way. But he gets up, he moves one way, moves the other. Joshua walks forward. He doesn't jog, doesn't anything. He just walks forward. 3 seconds later, one stutter step in, straight right down the pipe again. Bang! Francis Ngannou out cold, body folded in half, on the floor for like 2-3 minutes. They put him in recovery position. He's just out cold, out like a light. But he manages to get up on his feet after about sort of 2-3 minutes. They manages to get him up onto the stool, give him some oxygen. Then he stands up. Obviously, they announce the winner, do the whole spiel afterwards. Anthony Joshua shows what is supposed to happen when someone who's not of your code comes to your code, and tries to act big and bad and bossy. And he's now restored order in not just the heavyweight division, but boxing in general. The whole boxing MMA thing, people, they got their fill of it when it came with McGregor and Mayweather. But you thought, oh, well, the entry point is a lot different at heavyweight. It is. But again, even though the gap is a lot closer at heavyweight, there is still levels. And a lot of them were purely, they had something to hang their hat on because of how piss poor Tyson Fury is as a representation of boxing in general. But now they know, when you're in there against someone that actually takes the sport seriously and lives the sport and is disciplined in what they do, this is what happens. And ultimately, I don't know what level Francis Ngannou would actually be able to compete. Initially, people said, no, he should start just lower and then go up the levels, and if he's gonna sort of try and pursue it that way. But to be honest, he's done it the right way, because he's never gonna be like the greatest, even though he's such a great combat athlete and a gentleman of the sport and just a freak of nature. There would always be chances he would lose to some nondescript guy or come on the way up and not ever get to that pinnacle. Now he's faced 2 of the recognized 3 heavyweights in the world, and credit to him, and he's made about $30 million doing it. I'm proud of him for that. Again, I'm a person, I don't watch it as much anymore, but I did used to watch a lot of MMA, UFC, sometimes Strike One, and sort of I never really, it wasn't PFL, but what's the other one called? I can't remember the name of the other one, but I'm sure someone will put it in the comments. Bellator, that's it. Yeah, I used to watch quite a bit of Bellator, especially when like Bobby Lashley went into Bellator. So yeah, I'm familiar with a lot of the MMA stuff. But yeah, as I said, it just goes to show what happens when you face someone that's dedicated. And I'm pretty sure if he was to stay in boxing, there's a couple fights I'd actually like to see him. I think, look, the people say the Deontay Wilder fight in the boxing ring, yeah. Deontay said he wants to fight him in MMA. Like, he'll get destroyed first round. It will be over. Boxing would probably be more of a interesting fight between the two of them. I would like to see that. I'd like to see him against Dillian White. I'd like to see him against Jarrell Miller. And I'd like to see, as a comeback fight, if he's willing to do it, I actually think a good third fight for him, if he was to take on the challenge, would be against Derek Chisora. I think that would show you you get a gauge of where the level is at. And I think that would definitely be something that someone, that you could market. I know Chisora still kind of wants that Wilder work, so maybe if Wilder wants to have a comeback, that Derek Chisora fight's on the table. I would be quite happy to see Derek Chisora take on Deontay Wilder. But yeah, Chisora against Ngannou, I like it. White against Ngannou, I like that one. Wilder against Ngannou, or Wilder against Chisora, I like that. Jarrell Miller, Ngannou, Jarrell Miller, White, Jarrell Miller, Chisora, put all of these people, make that own little circle of entry, and just sort of fight amongst each other. That would all be very interesting, and I'd take it. But yeah, that's pretty much everything that took place. Nothing really happened on Saturday of note, so I'll pretty much leave it there. Guys, leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think. Are you happy that Anthony Joshua has delivered order and restored order to the heavyweight division and to boxing as a whole? Are you upset for Francis Ngannou? Did you think that Ngannou was going to win? Did you think that he was going to lose? I predicted the knockout, but I didn't predict it in the second round. Like, that took me by storm. I thought it would be around sort of round 9. Initially, I was thinking round 7, but I said round 9 to be conservative, because I know Joshua is he always seems to take these knockouts late when they happen. So yeah, between 7 to 9 seemed plausible to me, but second round, devastating. Nothing more that kind of needs to be said. But yeah, let me know what you guys think, and thank you for watching. Any new subscribers that are here, as I said, thank you. Think about becoming a member of the channel as well, would greatly appreciate that. But until then, more stuff, more footage, and more content to come this week. But until then, I will leave it there. So enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Have a great one. Peace.